What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian Colon from House of Wrestling, and this is my review for the October 17th episode of WWE Monday Night Raw. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notifications so that way you are notified when the House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. So, tonight's Monday Night Raw was from Oklahoma City. It's hard to say what really stood out. There was a lot of cool things that continued a lot of stories, but it wasn't anything that's like, oh wow, this is crazy. You could make an exception for the opening moments of Monday Night Raw between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, but that was never revisited throughout the show. So I mean, you could say that, but for the most part, I think most of the talk is around the OC and Carl Anderson. How is he going to work 2 dates? November 5th, Crown Jewel, they announced tonight through a challenge from Finn Balor and AJ Styles that it's going to be Judgment Day versus the OC at Crown Jewel, and Carl Anderson is scheduled to face Hikuleo at New Japan's Battle Autumn on the same day. So how is he going to do that? And that's pretty much the talk out of Monday Night Raw. Maybe not the casual viewers, but more so wrestling fans. It's like, wait a minute, he's scheduled. How's this going to work? So you have that, but also you do have Seth Rollins coming out as the reigning United States champion. You have this where the Miz and Dexter Lumis story is going. Now it's involving Gargano. So where's that headed? You got JBL introducing Baron Corbin. So he's come back with a relatively new look. You still have Damage Control and Bailey. They're still at odds with Bianca Belair. Then we had Cora Jade and the Pick Your Poison. So you had a lot of things that progressed a lot of stories, but in the process of progressing that story, like nothing really, like, for me, it didn't like catch me like, oh man, like last week and the prior weeks have been pretty solid with like, ooh, oh. And I think it's more so because, let's face it, the thing that kept Monday Night Raw really, really interesting and intriguing was the QR codes. Let's face it. You had these QR codes that were hinting towards Bray Wyatt's return, and now Bray Wyatt's returned, and there's no QR codes anymore. So it's really interesting. And yeah, tonight's Raw was an interesting Raw. It wasn't bad, but there were certain parts where it was just like, man, all right, just keep it going. So before I get into the nuts and bolts of Monday Night Raw, I'm going to give you guys the results. So again, the opening match, you had the OC, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows. They defeated Alpha Academy. You had Damage Control. They defeated Candice LeRae and Bianca Belair. You also had Baron Corbin defeat Dolph Ziggler. You had Dominic Mysterio defeat AJ Styles. Yes, Dominic Mysterio defeated AJ Styles. You also had Seth Rollins defeat Matt Riddle. And we did not get the match with The Miz versus Dexter Lumis because of The Miz attacking Dexter Lumis. So that is the results for Monday Night Raw. So, like I said, it's opened up like it was a very cold open. Like there was no intro, like they normally do. Like it was straight up like mid promo. Bobby Lashley talking, and he calls out Brock Lesnar. Lesnar comes out, and Lashley jumps over, and they just start brawling outside. Lesnar throws Lashley into the ring post, then Lashley throws Lesnar into the ring post, then he spears him through the barricade, then he slams him on the announce table, and that was just basically how it started. And you had the Bobby chants. And for me, as I'm watching this unfold, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be a really good Monday Night Raw. If it's starting off like this, like they're usually when Monday Night Raw start off like that, they tend to have a intensity, aggression, a physicality, and it seems to be more of a tighter show. And by tighter, I mean it's more um, like they know the direction they're going and they're not pivoting. Like this is where we're gonna go, and we got everything in sequence, and it's a more fluid show towards that direction. And after this, it just got really interesting. Um, Again, you had the OC versus Alpha Academy. It was a pretty decent match. And like most of the matches tonight were pretty decent. It's just something, maybe it's because of the stories leading up to the matches where they were developing the story, but it just didn't have that. Like for some reason, it just didn't have that. Ooh, okay, this is interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's because there's no more QR codes. I mean, that was one thing that was really interesting about the previous weeks of Monday Night Raw were the QR codes, the placement of the QR codes, and just the random moments where you had to watch Monday Night Raw to figure out what was the code and everything. So I think this week is a good somewhat parameter of what happens when you don't have um, stuff like the QR code in your broadcast, and there's pretty much no incentive to watch the show unless certain wrestler is your favorite wrestler. With the QR code, there was an incentive to watch because you're like, okay, this QR code can pop up at any time. Where is this popping up? Random moments, it comes on the screen or it's in the crowd or, it's in the background and just random places. And that was really intriguing and just an incentive to watch Monday Night Raw. And yeah, tonight really, like, unless you're really, really into these stories, like, there was very little incentive to watch. So yeah, the OC, this was a pretty good match. The moonsault into an ankle lock that Chad Gable did was pretty impressive that I liked. Carl Anderson spine buster, and eventually Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson executed the Magic Killer. They get the pin, 1, 2, 3. Then Judgment Day comes out. So you get Finn Balor. And I get what they're trying to do with Finn Balor, where it's obvious that there's the Bullet Club connection between him, AJ, and the Good Brothers. And you can tell they're trying to downplay that connection where there's, AJ's pretty much saying like, too sweet. I'm the guy that started that stupid club. So he's very, his character, not him as a person, but him as a character is very condescending to the history of these guys in the Bullet Club. So he challenges the OC for a match at Crown Jewel. AJ Styles, love this line. Do you have to ask your mother for permission? Because he wanted to fight them right then, right now. So he challenges Dominic. And AJ just tells me, like, you know what, I'm going to beat the piss out of you. Your dad wouldn't do it, but I'm going to do it. So yeah, this moment, like, this was, for me, was the segment that had that juice to the show. Where, again, you're like, oh, they're wrestling at Crown Jewel, but it's like, so what the hell, Carl Anderson? Like, how is Carl Anderson going to pull this off? And, a lot of wrestling fans who watch WWE and other promotions are just like, man, how's this guy going to do this? So that's an extra layer of intrigue, which is good intrigue for your product, where it isn't backstage drama, as we've seen in other promotions, but this is good intrigue where it's just like, man, okay, what's going to happen? Are they going to take the belt off him earlier? Like, how is this going to play out? Is he going to be, like, so much stuff, but man, it's so good. And it's intriguing because, it's like, okay, We want to see if, what's going to happen at Crown Jewel, but then also what's going to happen at New Japan Battle Autumn. And of course, there's people that, I get it, they really do not watch those Crown Jewel shows for, they have their legit reasons why. So we'll see what unfolds. So after that, you get Seth Rollins comes out, and I'm sorry, they need to turn Seth Rollins eventually face, because the dude is getting face reactions. I know they want him to be a heel, but like, your guy is like, he's getting those reactions. I would say his reactions are equivalent, somewhat, not on par, because Sami Zayn is getting some loud reactions, but him and Sami Zayn are like two guys that are over with the crowd. The crowd loves them, but they are very heelish. So it's a really interesting dynamic to watch unfold on TV, but that is a present reality. So he comes out, the crowd is singing a song. He tells them to go sing a song. And what I liked about this segment was, Mustafa Ali comes out. He's like, yeah, Bobby Lashley said I challenge, but you know what? I want to challenge you. And AJ, he's like, you got two options. You can celebrate or you can leave. And he's like, you don't belong in this ring. Ali's like, you know what? I'm your next freaking problem. He just starts beating on him, and then Seth just starts beating on Ali, and he throws him into the ring post and just walks away. So I like that they're using Ali in this place where he's wrestling for something, and there's stakes, and he has a reason to wrestle, and not just, oh, here's a match, and well, let's see if he wins or loses. Like, no, there's substance behind Mustafa Ali wrestling, which, like I always tweet, about damn time. Then you get backstage, JBL pulls up. Then we go to the match between Damage Control, Candice LeRae, and Bianca Belair versus Io Sky and Dakota Kai. And man, this match, this was a very weird match. And it had, I don't know what it was with this match. It's weird how to summarize this match, because one, all four women have been doing, a standout job, being pretty much the anchors of the WWE Women's Division. But for me, it does feel like we've seen Bianca Belair take on Damage Control in some variation or form for 2 months. And, at Extreme Rules, there was this anticipation like, okay, Bianca is going to drop the title to Bayley, and she didn't. So it's just like, okay, where is this going? And this match, like, it's just really weird. I don't know, it was just really weird, man. You had Bayley on commentary, which was freaking hilarious. It was pretty much a back and forth match. I think it was more so there were certain spots in them that were pretty clunky and stuff like that. Like, it was just really interesting. The Candice doing the sit-up senton, then Io Sky doing a double knee on the turnbuckle, Bayley grabbing a kendo stick, and you had all the women fighting outside. Then you had Bianca and Bayley, fighting over the table. But then you had Candice in the ring, and it was 2-on-1, and then they get the roll up and pin. Like, it was just really weird. Like, it was crazy. And also, looking at it, you had a 3-hour Raw with one women's match and one women's backstage segment. That's insane. Like, us who watch wrestling and watch all these promotions, we're kind of like, you see this stuff in AEW. It's unfortunate, but you do see this in AEW with one women's match, a segment, that's it. But for a 2-hour show, but for a 3-hour show, that's pretty interesting. I was anticipating Cora Jade to have some form of a match or a tag team match, as they did with Roxy Perez on SmackDown, but no, it's just a backstage segment. So it's pretty interesting, and I do gotta say, like, WWE's women's division, um, I wouldn't say it's in a total flux, but it is like very stagnant right now, where it's like kind of like how um man, how do I what era, man? Almost like, man, you could say um just how much, man, it's hard to say what era, but it's like we're seeing the same matches and match types and match different variations of the same match over and over again, and it's like, okay, where's it going? And um like, we all enjoy these women wrestlers, like, for the most part. I know some people, oh, it's like, no, I enjoy mostly all these women wrestlers, but it's just like, it's borderline repetitious, but not like it's threading. It's get into that line, but it's not. Um, just very weird. So we had, after that, you had Matt Riddle. He's in the backstage, gives an interview about his match against Seth Rollins. He runs into Ali. He's like, if I win, I'll give you the title shot. He's like, yeah, we're dope. And then they see The Miz. He's crying. He's complaining about his knee, and the janitors didn't mop, and that whole thing. And like, all right, we'll get help for you and stuff like that. Then we get a backstage segment with Judgment Day, Cora Jade. She basically asks Rhea Ripley to be her choice for the pick your poison, as Roxanne Perez selected Raquel Rodriguez to face Cora Jade, and Cora Jade selected Rhea Ripley to face Roxanne on NXT tomorrow, which tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day because NXT is going head to head with AEW Dynamite for now, because the Yankees game is a whole bunch. That's a whole nother video. I'll talk about that when Dynamite airs tomorrow, when I do my review. So yeah, you have that. Then JBL comes out. He has, I apologize for making an announcement. City runs down Oklahoma City. He introduces Baron Corbin. And he uses the term, the modern day wrestling god. And it's like, oh God. It's like JBL is WWE's Dan Lambert. Like, oh God. Except he's a little bit better. But it's I don't know. It's very, man, Triple H has done a very decent job with Raw and SmackDown as far as making it a lot more watchable, but it just feels like there's still certain elements that are just like lethargic and just very like, ew. And I think from this moment, when they reintroduce Baron Corbin, and of course the way the show has flowed ever since Triple H has taken over mid-July, or the end of July, like there's these feuds that we're like, okay, this is a feud, but then there's these matchups that are just like, oh, this is an interesting matchup. And I was anticipating he was going to face someone that we haven't seen for a while, or that's been on the roster, and no, he wrestles Dolph Ziggler, which we've seen Dolph Ziggler wrestle multiple times. It's not a shot at Dolph Ziggler or anything, but it's the way they position and put Dolph Ziggler in, that it's like, okay, we seen this already. Can we see someone new? And for me, it just felt like from this match, a little bit for the AJ Dominic match, but all the way up until the Elias segment, like the show like just got stagnant, and it was just like, all right, we're here, but it just like, it kind of felt like it was back when Vince was in charge. It's like, oh man, this is, yeah. So I mean, Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, they had a pretty decent match. Corbin hit his finisher. He wins. I mean, he's got a new outfit and everything, but it's, I don't know. We'll just see where this goes with his character. But it was just very, if it was a different opponent, someone that we haven't seen in a while, maybe it would have been a little bit better, like a Cedric Alexander or Shelton Benjamin or something like that. Just something different. And, I don't know, it's just they keep using Dolph Ziggler in these situations. It's like, all right. And I enjoy Dolph Ziggler matches, but this just didn't fit. Then we get a recap of Bray Wyatt on Smackdown. Then backstage, Cameron Grimes runs into the LC and he asks them to be his partners tomorrow on NXT, and they agree. So we got Cameron Grimes with the LC tomorrow on NXT. All right. Then we got AJ Styles versus Dominic. You can tell AJ Styles working with Dominic. This was a pretty decent match for Dominic. One of Dominic's better matches. Just didn't care for the finish. It was a simple Rhea grabbed AJ's leg and Dominic rolled him up because of the distraction. It's like, all right, Dominic wins this way. I don't know. It's just really, like I said, this episode of Raw was really weird. Of course, this advances the storyline going into Crown Jewel, but it was just really, I don't know. I was expecting a different finish, but it was like we've seen that finish, quite a lot in WWE with the women's matches with Bianca and her feud, with the Usos and their match. Like we've seen that type of finish in various matches in the last few months in WWE, and it's just like, really, like what, like, all right, it is what it is. So backstage, you got The Miz and Gargano, and Gargano basically tells Miz, if you want out of this match, you're going to have to tell the whole story. And he's like, what do you mean, whole story? And he's like, you're going to have to tell the whole story. So Johnny Gargano, in his interactions with The Miz tonight, he's alluded to something happening to him that he needs to tell the truth. That's going to get Dexter Lumis to stop stalking you and all that other stuff. And The Miz is dismissive and was like, what are you talking about? Like, no. So eventually this I didn't mind. Like, this was actually pretty fun tonight. These segments with The Miz and Dexter Lumis, it has been one of the brighter spots of Monday Night Raw because it's so intriguing and it's been solid along with the QR codes that we've had for the past several weeks, that this dynamic of Dexter Lumis just appearing out of nowhere and just this randomness. And I think that's the cool thing about Dexter Lumis and Miz storyline, that it's so spontaneous, and him popping up, you just don't know where he's coming from, and you don't know when it's going to be on the show. So you're just like, oh man, it's really tongue-in-cheek and just cool and simple and effective, and I enjoy it. It's fun. Then we get Dexter Lumis coming out for his match against The Miz, and the stipulation was if The Miz wins, Dexter Lumis can't work here, and if Dexter Lumis wins, he gets a contract by WWE. But that doesn't happen because as Dexter Lumis is heading towards the ring, The Miz attacks him with a chair and walks off, and the refs are taking care of him. I don't recall them mentioning what's going to happen or if they're going to have this match, so I guess Dexter Lumis is still going to stalk Miz until he gets his match. So, and I was actually looking forward to Dexter Lumis wrestling. I've seen several of his matches. Like, the guy can go. Like, he's really solid. I love his stuff, man. He's one of my favorite characters because he's so enigmatic, and he's like has a little bit of Jake the Snake as far as just that creepiness and like there's something creepy about this guy, but so cool of a wrestler. Then we get Elias coming out, and he says his younger brother got his career cut short, which is freaking hilarious. The show must go on. Riddle comes out with some bongos, and he's like, "Hey, you rock, and you want to hit my bong?" He calls one of the bongos a bong. It's got a funny reaction from the crowd. Then he's like, hey, we got to start that chant, and oh, walk with Elias. And the crowd starts singing it, and Elias mentions to Riddle, one day we're gonna play together. Um, then Riddle's sitting at ringside. This was freaking hilarious. Like Riddle's sitting there while Elias, he has two guitars, but he has a piano and he's playing the piano, and Riddle's just, he's like, man, this guy's funny. This is some really some entertaining stuff, man. Like for the little bit that they do, like this is pretty funny and entertainment. Like he does have a comedic side that is watchable and entertaining. It's like, that's pretty funny. So Seth Rollins interrupts. This match, man, they've had a very solid feud, but I think this one with the Bayley and Bianca, it was happening with the Dominic and Rey Mysterio. Where is this going? Like, what's next for these guys, for these wrestlers? Like, what's next? And I think we're getting to the point where, hopefully by Survivor Series, we start getting accelerated to there, because we do have the War Games match, both men and women. So eventually something's going to come out of all these feuds going into Survivor Series, and then after that, we're a Rumble. But man, this was a solid match. The Riddle just started the match off. He just ran at Seth Rollins, and did a rear choke hold over the top rope and just started beating on him, which I liked it because it got to the point like, hey, these guys don't like each other. They have this really bitter feud and this like bitter competition of being the best and getting one up on their opponent. So it was just like, I like that. There's a point where Seth shoved Elias. Then after that, Elias just looked around, and Riddle was, the ref was trying to prevent him from getting to Seth Rollins, and Elias just came with a running knee strike right to Seth, and the crowd popped and everything. So you had that. Then you had the triangle chokehold that's Matt Riddle did on Seth Rollins multiple times, where it's like, it kind of made you think like, man, is Matt Riddle going to win the United States title tonight? I know more or less Seth Rollins winning, but is he? Like a little bit of doubt, but that wasn't the case. There's a point in the match where Seth Rollins, he super kicked Elias outside the ring. Then Riddle got an advantage. Then Seth reversed, did the stomp, and then as Seth tried to do another move, Elias got in. He hit Elias into Riddle. Then he was able to do another curb stomp. Pins Riddle, 1, 2, 3. That was it. Then he stomps Elias. Post match, he's celebrating. Mustafa Ali comes out. He's just hitting Seth Rollins, and then Seth Rollins is beating him up, and Seth Rollins runs out in the ring. So you got Ali screaming at Seth Rollins on the top rope, and so we got Ali and Seth Rollins starting a feud, and I like that they have Ali in the main event with Seth Rollins over the United States title, one of the top mid-card titles in WWE, along with the Intercontinental title. So it's like about time they use Mustafa Ali correctly, and I'm all for this, seeing where they go with Mustafa Ali, because I honestly believe a Mustafa Ali Seth Rollins match has the great possibility of being a match of the year. And I strongly believe that because Mustafa Ali can go. We know Seth can go. Hopefully that match happens this year because that is going to be a fantastic match. And hey, it might happen at Crown Jewel or it might happen at Survivor Series. So we'll just have to wait and see. But overall, like I said, man, this show there was some things that were stagnant, clunky, but for the most part, they did progress stories. But in the process of progressing those stories, it just felt a little lethargic and very small amount of repetitiveness. But like I said, the thing about this show that people are talking about is Carl Anderson. Like, how is he going to wrestle the 6-man match at Crown Jewel the same day that he's scheduled to face Hikuleo for the New Japan Pro Wrestling Never Openweight Championship at New Japan Battle Autumn the same day? So how is this going to work? Are there going to be, something where he's going to drop the title or be stripped of it the day before or leading up to it? Or is, the match is going to what is going to happen? Like, is there going to be a swerve where it's not going to be the 6-man match at Crown Jewel and he's going to go there? Like, so many questions surrounding Carl Anderson. That's actually the more intriguing thing that's being talked about after Monday Night Raw. So a good intrigue, not any backstage drama, but very interesting and fun, and sit back and see what happens with this. So I'm looking forward to it. So that is my review for the October 17th episode of WWE Monday Night Raw. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notifications so that way you're notified when the House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, all entertainment is subjective, man. Just have fun, and in this crazy world, just enjoy, man. Like, just enjoy wrestling, man. All right, with that,